Hi, and welcome to InFocus. This is Jabbar Al-Obaidi. In this episode, we'll talk about global engagement and international programs. I have Dr. Wenkai To. He is the Assistant Provost for Global Engagement and the Senior International Officer at Bridgewater State University. And Dr. To is well known in terms of his experience in education, global education. He's a historian with a international background, and we will tackle all issues related to the international studies. Dr. Wenkai, thank you so much for taking the time and to spend this episode with us, enlightening us and also educating our audience. But I can't start this program without asking you a question about the latest development in the United States, especially with the death of the late George Floyd, who actually passed away in the custody of the police. And so there are issues now related to policing racism and also brutality of some police officers. And this, of course, has its tremendous impact on our work, on the professional life, and also on everybody's life. So I don't know what's your inputs on that, and what can you say about it? Thank you.
First of all, thank you, Professor Al-Obaidi and the InFocus program for asking me to come in and talk about global education. And it's a very important topic that we work on all the time and for most of our professional career, and also at Bridgewater State. And you and I have both spent our career at Bridgewater State University for more than 2 decades, working on all these issues about the world. I think, what happened in Minneapolis and in the United States right now is really, it's an effort to think about racial justice in our society, about how Blacks and African Americans are being mistreated by the police. And that is a part of a larger issue of systemic racism in our country that affected everything, not just in terms of law enforcement, but also about education, housing, job opportunities, and everything relating to different groups of people in the United States. As an international educator, we are always concerned about a more just and equitable society when, people in the United States and people around the world should all strive for, more equality and equity among ourselves. So this is not just a philosophy of, international education, but it's also a philosophy of life and how we actually try to be better human beings and towards each other. So I hope that the movement today will help the United States to strive for better conditions for all citizens, especially African Americans. That's what we try to do in our university as well.
Is you think the student population will be impacted with this in general in the United States?
Yes, I think, as you know, the United States now is going through a period of transition. In 10 years, the majority of our population will be non-white populations. And there's a lot of ethnic and racial diversity in our society, including our university. So it's not just, the old world when, one group of Americans is going to be the majority. It's going to be a multi-ethnic and multiracial society. It's a microcosm of the world that we live in. So we need to think about how we share resources and benefit each other and try to promote peace and prosperity for everyone.
What are the direct impacts on the COVID-19 on international studies and global engagement, in your opinion?
Well, this has been the largest challenge for the international education, since I could remember. And as you know, in the last 20 years, Bridgewater State University has begun to increase our international education and global opportunities for our students. And we have been doing a lot, as you said, in study abroad, international student and scholar services, and also supporting global programs in our curriculum. You yourself, Dr. Al-Obaidi, is the director for global programs at our university that try to teach students about different areas of education, in the world. In terms of students traveling, the COVID-19 has impacted student mobility all over the world. If you could recall that we closed our university back in mid-March because of this pandemic, we already started to cancel many programs in China in the beginning, back in February. When the virus spread to South Korea and Italy, we decided to bring back our students from South Korea and Italy. And then later on in March, we had to close our campus and decided to bring all our students, about 40 of them, back to the United States. We also have to take care of about 100 international students who are studying at Bridgewater State University. Some of them went home and some of them had to stay here because there were no flights for them to fly home. And the pandemic was going on, so there was no flight. There were no flights. So all that has stopped our activities for student exchange. On the other hand, Bridgewater State University has organized so many activities every year. You cannot find a day that we don't have a global program event on campus. So what happened is that we had to cancel all the activities between mid-March until the end of the semester. Actually, through the whole summer, we are stopping 6 months of international exchange and activities on campus. And that's really unprecedented. As you know, it's a very active campus, and we have a lot of international exchange on campus. So we all have to adjust to the new normalcy. Instead of seeing all the students and guest speakers and dignitaries and delegations, now we have to all operate in front of a computer screen on, Zoom and other platform. So it's a radical change. And on top of that, after the pandemics, we also have this crisis of, protests. And we also have the issues of unemployment, in the society. So this year has been really challenging for everyone, and especially for international education.
Yeah, I mean, they said, I'm reading from the last report from NAFSA. They said there is a big risk that we will probably have a big challenge in terms of students coming to the United States based on the late or the new regulation. Probably they will restrict the entry visa, probably delay issuing visa. I mean, in your role as the senior international officer and for global engagement, which is really important position in mobilizing students and bringing students here, what do you think that will actually be solved in a way that won't really have direct effect on our students when they come to United States, or how you calculate this and what's your plan for that?
It's very challenging. All the universities are planning what we're going to do in the fall and whether it's possible to have international students here. And now it's June, the middle of June. Most of the states are starting to open their society. but it's going to be a gradual process. As you know, in Massachusetts, we have 4 phases of opening, and the university has started to think about opening at the end of June.
Yeah.
Gradually in the next 2 months to see how it goes. So on the one hand, we have to look at public health guidance, based on CDC and the Department of State and also Massachusetts about when it's going to be safe to have face-to-face activities. Of course, with protection, with wearing a mask and have social distancing. On the other hand, we also have to wait until the government to lift the travel restrictions. Right now, there's a 14-day quarantine requirement for visitors from coming into Massachusetts. I expect this to be lifted soon, and the flights will also begin to resume in July and August. And then we have to wait until the embassies to open their offices to issue visas for our students. So all 3 steps have to be done before we can bring students back. But we're still trying to look at how many students we can bring back in September. Because a lot of our students, believe me, they still want to come to the United States, even though it's, with mostly online instruction, because they have prepared their studies for a long time. They don't want to wait for 1 year and not to come here. In terms of exchange or study abroad, we're gradually opening it up, but it will take months and months to go back to normal. So it's going to be a slower year. So we have to think about new ways of developing exchanges and, and learning from others. So using virtual exchange as a tool for the classroom and for organizing events would be a new pattern for us for the next 6 to 12 months.
So you're talking about 2 groups of students, in this case, international. The one who already been students here, but then they traveled or they stuck at home and they can't come back, or those they staying on campus because they couldn't travel or they travel within the United States, and newly admitted students, right?
Yes.
So you have these 2 groups.
Right.
So
they're
your focus,
students and, yeah.
I'm sorry for the delay because, that's technology, as you said. So, so your focus first, your office and your colleagues, the focus is on the students who they should come back to continue their studies, right?
Yes.
And then you take a look for the newly admitted or those who are interested in coming to Bridgewater State University.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have to take care of 3 groups of students, actually. Students who are still here in the United States, but they probably need to move out of the residence halls and then coming back to stay in the residence halls. So, and then we have students coming back to continue their studies. And finally, we have the newly admitted students.
Now, the first area hit in global engagement is a study abroad, as you know. And of course, not just hit because of the limit in students or the restriction in travel, but also financially, they got hit because most of the universities throughout the world and in the United States, either they cut short the study abroad engagement or they cancel it. Where Bridgewater State University is standing with these 2 options?
Well, depending on where they studied in the spring semester, when they came back, if they already started their program in their locations in Europe or Asia or other part of the world, the university or the location the provider would continue the online curriculum for them to finish the semester. So that's one case. They started their program in January and they came back in March. So they had 2 months to continue their program. That's one group. The other groups is that the students who went for a study tour or travel course for a short period of time. So we had to decide to cancel all our semester abroad, or especially the short-term travel courses, both in March and also in May, June, and July. So in that case, we have to find out whether they need the credits or they can actually make up the credit by doing an equivalent online course at Bridgewater State University, so they're not losing 3 credits. For students, we have to bring them back very quickly. We have to make sure that they were safe. We will have to make sure that they were able to come back home during the pandemic. So sometimes we actually had to refund them with their airfare or support some of their expenses so that they're not losing too much money. So the university has done a good job of protecting our students during the pandemic and trying to support them if they have financial difficulties. There's a student emergency fund that was set up by the university to support these students. So the Global Engagement Office is working with the President's Office to support these students as well.
So you want your students to come back, and you are willing to help them as much as you can, and because that's your task, you know, as a global engagement, as Munich Institute for Global Engagement. Now, why international students would be interested to come to Bridgewater State University?
Well, as we all, the listeners and watchers of this program know, Bridgewater State University has been around for 180 years, beginning from the 1840s. We have always been opening to the world, and especially in the last 20 or 30 years, there's an increase of international students. Not just from one part of the world, we have had a philosophy of opening up the university to many regions in the world. So we have students from the Middle East, from Asia, from Europe, from Africa, who are here. So students feel very welcome, and they also wanted to have a good studying opportunity in the United States. So they picked Bridgewater State University because we have good academic programs and a well-supported system, you know, with student affairs and also with the Munich Institute for Global Engagement. So as you and I both working on helping our students, you know, I think Bridgewater State University will continue to weather the storm, so to speak, of the pandemic, and continue to, you know, work on global education in the new challenging period.
So if you look to the international map, global map, can you describe where your engagements are?
Well, we are engaging with every part of the world. We even had one trip to Antarctica, you know, before, but we definitely are in all the continents. We have very much be rooted in, you know, Asia, Middle East, Europe, Africa, Latin America, and even Australia and New Zealand. So our students go abroad to every continent in the world when they study abroad. And then we have students from different parts of the world as well. Our programs in Jordan is very well established, as you know, and our programs in China, in Japan, in Ireland, Canada, you know, those are very strong partnerships with us. And then we also have many students who have gone to Australia, New Zealand, and Europe to study as well. As you know, we also had a program with Africa called the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program that Bridgewater State University has been doing over the last 4 years. So we're also engaging with Africa, including the nation Cape Verde, where we are one of the leaders for helping that country. As one of your previous speakers, I know that you did some programs on Africa in the last few segments. So Bridgewater State University is also engaging with Africa as well.
Could you speak about the programs themselves? So in terms of students, probably faculty, librarians, staff, I mean, can you paint a picture for our audience about that, please?
Well, our programs are very broad. We do a lot of speaker series throughout the year. We have the Irish Heritage Day or month. We have the Middle East Heritage Month. We have the Asian New Year, and also, you know, Chinatown Hall. We have programs like, you know, the Latin American Caribbean Studies Carnival. We have the Africa Awareness Week. We have the Canadian Conference. We have the Jordanian conference, working with different universities in Jordan and other parts of the Middle East. So we're engaging with all these partnerships. We have traditional study abroad for students. We have, as I said, we have about 10 faculty each semester, bringing students to different countries to study for 2 to 3 weeks. So we also have about 100 international students coming here. We're also engaging with the community. We have a partnership with World Boston. We're actually working with some ambassadors and consulates, council officials. Sometimes they come to our campus and talk about our international relations as well. So we're doing everything, I would say.
It sounds so. But how about faculty involvement from both international and from Bridgewater State University?
Well, as you know, Bridgewater State University has over 300 full-time faculty. A lot of them came from different parts of the world, like including myself, who was born in Hong Kong. And many faculty had a lot of international experience to bring to Bridgewater State University. We once estimated that our faculty come from 40 different countries, 30 to 40 different countries. I think what they bring to the campus is their passion for international education. They support the study of different parts of the world. They develop programs and curriculum activities and also events for the students. Faculty also participate in international scholarship. Some of them go to international conferences regularly, developing connections with other scholars around the world. That's why we have some visiting scholars coming every year. This year we had visiting scholars from Cape Verde, Jordan, and China. So our scholars work. Sometimes they also become visiting scholars. Our faculty will go to other countries to study. Recently, we have a faculty who was in Jordan for a semester, and also another faculty who were teaching in China, including a summer program where we've had a lot of Chinese professors who went to China. So all that happened at Bridgewater State University.
Yeah, are you taking advantage of the Fulbright for students and faculty?
Yes, we take advantage of the Fulbright. Each year, there's probably 1 or 2 Fulbright scholars coming to our university. We had a scholar who is coming from India, but she has to delay her trip a little bit. We also had another professor who got a Fulbright grant to go to Sweden next January. We may be bringing another scholar from Georgia, from the country of Georgia, coming next year as well. And you and I were both Fulbright scholars, and I think we took advantage of that. I was a Fulbright scholar about 10 years ago, and you also had brought in Fulbright scholars to Bridgewater State University many years ago as well. So we all know that this is so important for us. Our students cannot be isolated from the world. They need to learn from experts around the world and understand different perspectives on all kinds of issues.
What Bridgewater State University and your office, the global, Munich Institute for Global Engagement, to provide for international faculty when they come to visit for a short while or for a semester or for 1 year?
Luckily, Bridgewater State University has an international scholar house for some of our long-term scholars. Mm-hmm. So if there's vacancy, our international scholars can stay at our international scholar house right next to the campus for their visit, whether it's 1 semester or 1 year. We also provide teaching and research opportunities for visiting scholars. Sometimes they work with a faculty sponsor to conduct their research and provide lectures for our students. And sometimes they are asked to teach a class or two classes for our students. For example, one of our visiting scholars last semester was from Jordan, and he came here and he taught in the music department. And it was a very good experience for our students. Most of our students had not experienced Middle Eastern music or world music before. They took one class from a professor, from our own professor, but this is a good opportunity to hear about world music from another scholar in the Middle East.
Dr. Wankai, you are, as I mentioned, you are expert in education, but also you are a historian, and also you travel the world. What's the message? Why, you know, taxpayers, they should pay attention to the global engagement, and what's the, you know, it's about the global citizen? I mean, could you massage these two things so people, they can understand the importance of what you're doing and educators are doing and Bridgewater State University is doing?
Well, our nation is built on immigrants from all over the world. The history of the United States is a part of, you know, how we came together, you know, from all heritage and all cultures of all peoples, you know, except the native populations. You know, the country was built on by immigrants, and by European immigrants, by African immigrants, from Asian immigrants, from Latin American immigrants. To understand the world is to understand ourselves. We are part of the global community. The greatness of the United States is defined by how we share with the world about our mission of democracy, freedom, and peace and prosperity. And I think our students need the skill sets and the mindset to understand the world, to be good citizens, to be good workers, to be good, you know, students. They need to master the skills in the 21st century, which requires global citizenship or global mindset, so that they can solve problems. They can work with people of different cultures. They can also try to develop their ideas and, you know, and careers, you know, by learning about the world and using those skills to work in their jobs. They can also further their studies if they actually learn about more about the world. And the world is, you know, ahead of us. There are many opportunities for our students to go around the world to work there.
In terms of your expectation for the fall 2020, or of course spring 21? What are the short messages?
We'll tell them that you're welcome. International students are welcome to come here. We will try to send our students abroad when it's safe to do so. And your safety is, of course, our most important concern. But we also try to ensure that we will, no matter what format we teach, we're going to continue to reach out to the world and make sure that our students can get a really good global education, and in their classes and also in their extracurricular activities. So we hope that when it's safe, we can travel again.
Thank you, Dr. Wankaito, for your time, and I wish you the very best and all success in your program.